I just been waiting to see this film since it was announced. I've been waiting for it all year. And finally, now that I got my chance, it's time to talk about it. So let's jump into my review, folks, of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing Black Panther Wakanda Forever, coming to theaters November 11th. So I did get to check it out at the world premiere. And after seeing it, I kind of just marinated on it. I tried to do a review and I was getting all choked up. And to be honest, I was just emotional. You know, the ride home, I was quiet. I was just kind of just taking it all in. Chadwick Boseman is my hero. I say it all the time. And just the level of dedication and honor that they presented towards him in this film was just, it had me choked up the entire time. And you know, I wanted to make sure I got the review out for you all. I wanted to make sure I was able to, you know, get some points out, some thoughts, some reactions, all that other good stuff in this review. And I just was emotionally compromised. So I was having a hard time getting it done. But I will say that there will be another discussion afterwards. I plan on seeing it again. There will be another early screening for press. I will be checking it out one more time as well. Then I'm going to go support it because, one, I enjoyed the film for the first viewing. After a night of letting it kind of marinate, I still feel like I enjoyed it to the utmost, and I can't wait to check it out again. So first things first, I'm going to get right to the hard part here. You want to know about the after the credit scenes. I'm going to tell you that there's only one after the credit scene, but I suspect there could be another. And I think that they withheld one for the press viewership so that things did not get leaked. So that's another reason I want to check it out when it was released to the general audience, because I want to see, will there be another after the credit scene, which I think they're holding back. And this isn't untypical of Marvel. They did this at Guardians of the Galaxy. Is one film I remember where they didn't have any after the credit scenes. And then lo and behold, when it released, it was like 2 or 3. So, you know, that's one reason I definitely will be checking it out. But kind of talking about a couple of things here. Let's talk about Chadwick Boseman. The beginning part of this film is absolutely really real respectively done in honor of Chadwick Boseman. Because when I say that, I mean him as the person, but also him as the actor who played the character. And the very important thing that people should take about this is that they drew a parallel to how Chadwick handled his illness with what's happening with Black Panther, as he has fell under an illness and he didn't tell anybody. And now he's on his last days, and Shuri's trying to figure out what can she do to save her brother, and she fails. So now she kind of lives with that, you know, with that guilt, and obviously grieving because now she lost her brother and she wasn't able to do so. She had the ancestors had given her all these gifts and she was not able to save her brother, which in Chadwick's in his real life, through him going through all of this, he kept that really close. No one knew he was sick. No one knew, you know, he had only a little bit of time left on this earth. And I think that, like, while the actors were able to kind of really tap into some real feelings, because this story feels so close to their real life, where you have this guy who was going through something and didn't tell anybody. And that's what happens with the character here in T'Challa, where he had an illness and he didn't tell anybody. So, like, that right there, I think, is just brilliantly handled. You can't argue why they handled T'Challa this way, when they actually mirrored what happened in Chadwick's life and made it work. And I think that was really, really dope. So I was just all tears from that alone. And I just could not believe it. And then we get the special Marvel opening with just Chadwick Boseman. And, you know, some of his iconic moments, scenes, smiles, mannerisms, and obviously throwing up Wakanda Forever. I mean, we're getting all of that. And this is completely silent. And I was just like, oh, deep breaths. Come on, we got to get through this. Because all this happened in 5 minutes in the film. And I'm like, oh my God, what is to come? So there's that. Now, getting into things now. Let's go to performances. Now, Denai easily stands out in this film early. I mean, she makes an impact instantly with her performance, with Okoye, with her character, from the stunt and hand-to-hand fight choreography. I mean, she makes an impact off the rip, and I was just like, wow. And I think what's, you know, it's not to say that we didn't know that she can do this, and obviously we've seen, you know, what she did in Infinity Wars and even in Endgame, but in the first Black Panther to this, we see a strong presence in these well-known actors who really wasn't on the forefront of a lot of the action. So Denai getting a lot of screen time, and Angela Bassett, who I expect to hear her name called during award season. I mean, her performance here will certainly have people talking. It's not even a question. And Miss Wright herself, as Shuri, you know, hey, she had an important job in this film, and that was to carry it, and she certainly did not let down. Her journey as the character, and I also feel as self, was really emotional. Just the roller coaster of events that we go through with this character, and you can definitely see a lot of her in this character. You know, as moments you can tell that she was just focusing on Chadwick, and she was obviously in Shuri and focusing on her brother, and then, you know, at this point now these things kind of blur, you know, and just these moments where she's isolated, and we're just seeing just raw emotion just from her facial expressions is just done so well. So strong acting performances up and down the board here, and I haven't even got to, well, let's just talk about right now in Namor, the backstory and his instant presence, menacing, meticulous, and actually kind of charming at times. But this balance of this of how this character kind of draws you in and then completely hits you in the gut, and you're just like, oh my god, like, so well done. And I know from the filming, a lot of the underwater stuff was actually filmed underwater. There's an underwater filming crew, so the mannerisms of swimming from underwater to in the air to on land, I mean, Namor is must watch in every single scene. Fantastic job in the acting, and wow. Just wow. And I just, the transformation into this character, wow. So up and down the board, the acting was top tier. You know, I could talk about Winston Duke coming in as sort of the comedic relief, but also the character of reason at times too. I think there's a lot to talk about his character going forward, but I think as of right now, he kind of took a seat back, you know, because if you think about what happened in Black Panther 1, he was sort of one of the people that was kind of like, I told you so about a lot of things. So like, he had no reason to be in the forefront because he kind of was basically like, well, you didn't listen, and here we go with things and whatnot. Anyway, speaking about the plot in this film, it's very simple. Everybody wants vibranium. The United Nations have a meeting. They're just like, hey, we thought you all were going to share your resources. We want vibranium. We want in Wakanda. And they're like, no. And I know y'all think because Black Panther's gone, we're defenseless, but hey, keep trying us. And they keep making an example of other nations trying to infiltrate them, trying to steal their resources. However, a scientist has developed a vibranium tracker, which takes them into the ocean where they have discovered more vibranium. But when you go into an ocean, you didn't realize that that ocean also becomes, what the surface people are doing becomes a liability to this whole community, this whole nation of folks underwater, which is where Namor steps in now. Now, there's a couple of issues. Namor obviously blames the surface land people for saying, hey, what are y'all doing? Stay out of this, and easily washes them. And now we're talking about SEALs and CIA agents, washes them instantly, which obviously sends a message back to the humans in the sense of like, okay, we got to attack. Who did it? They want to blame Wakanda for anything. And obviously they want to blame Wakanda because if they have a reason to blame Wakanda, then they have a reason to infiltrate Wakanda to get what they want. Tell me if this doesn't sound like something you've heard before, right? But then at the same token, Namor is just like, we can actually work together and talking to Wakanda, we can work together. We can work something out. Like, protect us, we protect you, etc., etc., etc. However, we're going to need that scientist because we can't have these type of, devices and machines out here because that's a liability to us. So we're going to take this scientist and we're going to make an example of the scientist, and that's that. Of course, Shuri and the Queen are not having that. They're not going to turn over somebody who's innocent because what they feel is the best way to handle this situation. That scientist I'm talking about is Riri Williams here, as we know as Ironheart. Now the issue here is that, like, you know, she's an innocent young lady that something she did had no reason going to this caliber. She had no clue something as small as what she did in a college project became something that the CIA used in order to get the resources that they want. So there's a little bit of a triangle situation kind of going on here, where you have Namor and his folks, and then you have the surface land, and then you have Wakanda, and they're all trying to figure out who has what move and what's going to happen. Now, speaking of Namor and his community, his group of folks, the Talokan looks amazing. Talokan looks amazing. I mean, first of all, every city that they show, whether it's Wakanda, whether it's, you know, certain cities in America, everything just looks amazing. But when they go underwater, oh my God, it's just something super special. And, you know, there's a connection here between Talokan and Wakanda. You know, vibranium happens to be something that really provides energy to make communities run. So, you know, there's a little bit of a I can use you, you can use me type of thing, you know. And they're not by any means weak, you know, of a huge army, a lot of resources, and the water, duh. So, you know, there's a lot of different things kind of going on with that. So it's so much more I could talk about. I got so many notes and whatnot. Certain plot points. Okay, let me get to some of the things I didn't like. I was a little bit underwhelmed by the ending, and this is something that took me after a night's rest to kind of dissect here. The ending of this film felt a little lackluster. However, if you just use a little bit of critical thinking, you see why it was executed the way it was, and it makes sense. It makes sense why they did it. Because like Marvel, it's always about what's next. It's always about the connectability, and they definitely execute it in a way that I think makes total sense. So, you know, you get a resolve to a film, but you also open up for many and much more possibilities. You also have to pay very close attention to the slightest bit of dialogue that makes you understand what's the dilemma that is to come. Because, oh, I was something I picked up on. I was like, wait, did they say what? And I said, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, it wasn't the strongest of endings, but it's absolutely a great beginning. They really got that right. The music is good. I'm talking about the soundtrack. I'm talking about the score. And then I'm talking about the moments where they decide to use nothing, and this is completely silent. Those were some of the most heartfelt moments, because that's when you was just one-on-one with the actors and what you're seeing on screen. And that typically was just raw emotion. So I thought that was very excellently done. So many different things to talk about in this film. Rihanna's songs are dope as you hear them in the end credits here. I think at about an hour and a 40-minute mark is really where the action starts to really kick in. So like, yeah, there's a lot of character building. I mean, when you're talking about Namor and understanding his origin story, they give you a little bit of that to kind of get that emotional connection with him. And understand why he operates the way he does, you know, because again, he comes off as charming, but if there's one thing about him he's not going to play with, that's his people. He's not going to have that. And so, you know, you mess with his, it's going to be a problem. And understand how he became, you know, how he gained rights to the throne. And actually, the moment where he lands on the throne for the first time, his reveal was dope. The first time he sits on the throne is amazing with the score and everything. There's so much to really bring in about this character. But as I said, it's must watch every single moment. I also loved how this film was a display in culture and the fact that we got so many different spoken languages in this film. Like, this film was super diverse on that note. So like, it was good representation in this film. The women were strong, kick-ass scenes. I mean, powerful and raw emotions. Just everything in terms of the acting and performance, top tier. Didn't think it slacked anywhere. Anywhere. And then of course, when you were talking about Marvel, of course the presentation, the everything in terms of the production is going to look stellar. A couple other little things. There's tons of suits. Of course, you want to know, like, there's tons of suits there. In suits of like suits that people wear. You know, if it's we're talking about enhancements and whatnot. Really good action scenes. I think that there is a certain character that gives you a very tyrant feel, but we'll see that character again soon. I loved how they established her as being problematic. Like, problematic for a lot of reasons, but more or less for me, like, societal. Like, this is not a person I would hang around with, and it's just that this person is very quick to blame black people for everything. That's just my, you know, that's why I'm going with that there. But I think also too, you know, from the beginning to the end, they celebrated Chadwick to the utmost. And I really think not only was there a lot of love and respect for him, but this was somebody's father, somebody's husband. This was a friend. This was a brother. You know, he represented so much, and you have to think, well, all those emotions happen to be accounted for. They absolutely nailed it. Ryan Coogler nailed this without a doubt. Now, the reveal of who is Black Panther, that moment is special, and from that point on, the movie just kicks into another gear, and it's on and popping. It is on and popping. Not spoiling that for you all because you have to see. But even beyond that, all the way getting to the conclusion of the film, it just was a sigh of fresh air. You know, because we had handled Chadwick properly, so you felt good and confident with that. You felt like there was a turn in the page here in terms of this character in the Black Panther. You know, obviously being optimistic in what Black Panther can do going forward. But then there's an after the credits scene. One of what I believe to be two, because we haven't seen the other, but I think that the second one will be again released when the general public get to see it. I absolutely agree 1000% with how the after the credit scene is done, executed, handled, and the possibilities going forward. And there's a lot I can say about that. That will be in another review, another discussion, but I thought they handled it to the T. Everything makes sense. The math makes sense. The timelines make sense. The possibilities going forward, it's a lot of optimism there, but I got a few theories on that. Everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. And I also think that considering the stakes going forward for the entire world, you know, when you're talking about the government, CIA, and all that other folks, so I think of it when you talk about Talokan and you talk about everything that happened underwater, when you talk about Wakanda, there's so much to consider going forward. And I think they have got enough to work with, and I think this particular franchise or series in the Black Panther franchise within the MCU is going to be okay. I should mention Riri Williams is so hip, so cool. The lingo, the style, the fashion. She also brings like another layer of like that this makes this film feel really refreshing, because Shuri is absolutely cool to me, but when you see the two of them next to each other, you're like, okay, well, yeah, they're definitely not the same type of people. You know, one was very nurtured under Wakanda, one was out here getting it in the regular real world, and obviously she's had some struggles of her own, but she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant, as I said, the scientist. And I think that the two of them and what may go forward with them, it could be really, really dope. There's a particular thing I did not like about Riri. And obviously we know Riri is Ironheart and obviously like the second coming of Iron Man. But I feel like the introduction of Riri was like, I feel like we were a little cheated. But that's okay, because she has her own thing coming. And that's where you're leaving a lot of the magic for that. And, you know, I'm cool with that. So a slight introduction of possibilities to come. So yeah, I don't know, man. So much more to talk about. But I will say that, like, yeah, there's implications for a lot of things going forward. There's implications for the connectivity to other other films. The overall MCU. When you're talking about the Avengers movie, there's implications there. When you talk about the other things that we're hoping for in terms of like the X-Men and Fantastic Four and all this other stuff, I can see the possibilities all within this film. There's a lot that this film really allows for them to work with going forward. Just depends on how they want to go with things. There's a lot in this. And because there's so much to say. I want to say also, Namor's introduction and everything with the with all of his soldiers. The moment they make a present, it feels like a horror film. Like at times I was kind of like, whoa, this feels like dark and heavy, and that's again how like it feels sinister and sadistic, and how he operates is meticulous, and then he's charming. I thought they did a really good job in making sure that like his presence and the production with his presence, the toning felt absolutely different. They didn't want you to fall for his smile and think he's instantly a good person. You can tell by certain actions like, oh, right, yep, I'm not gonna mess with him. But it's really, really cool. It's really, really cool. I cannot wait to check this out again. Wow, this was something. This was something. I don't even have to tell you because I know you are. Definitely jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts about it. I know you're gonna watch it. I know you're gonna go see it. You're probably gonna see it multiple times. It's certainly worth it. It's a long film. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it at all. And when you do go check it out, again, come in the comments, let me know your thoughts about it. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.